morning students, welcome you all in English lecture. So students, in today's lecture, let's continue the remaining part of the new chapter which we have started in the previous lecture. Students, just take out your textbook, page number 25. Let's continue with our chapter, the souvenir. A jam-packed 3 days program awaited the children on the moon. So students, as I have told you all that the souvenir, this chapter is a story which is science fiction. In this story, the writer has tried to tell us the changes which would have taken place by 2069 because of new technologies. So, in this chapter, the named Siley, she is on the trip towards the moon. So, a jam-packed 3 days program awaited the children on the moon. The school camp or the school picnic was taken towards the moon. According to the Earth calculations on the moon, there were 15 days of daylight and 15 days of night time. The 3 days of the trip were going to be part of the night time on the moon. One of the most important programs of the first day was, so dear students, now according to the world calculations, this picnic on the moon was of 15 days. So according to the Earth calculation, 15 days was of the daylight and 15 days of the night time. And the 3 days of the trip, this school trip, this 3 days trip were going to be part of the night time on the moon. This 3 days picnic or the trip was with the part of the night time only. And one of the most important program of the first day was, the most beautiful attraction was the sky watch. On the earth, it was usually foggy and the stars were seen rarely and only very faintly. Now, faintly means what? Faintly means quietly. So, the most attraction was the sky watch. For the children, the most beautiful attraction was the sky watch. And on the earth, it was usually foggy. Foggy means what? Unclear. And the stars were seen rarely and only very faintly. Faintly means what? Quietly. So, there was no atmosphere on the moon. On the dark background of the moon sky, the stars shone dazzling bright. So, on the earth, like we can see from here the stars, but they are unclear. The weather is very foggy, unclear. But on the moon, the sky watch was so pretty, so beautiful. The dark background and of the moon sky and the stars shone dazzling bright. The most attractive view was that the disk of the earth. In the moon sky, the earth looked 13 times bigger than the moon in the earth sky. It was also 70 times brighter. The earth light fell on the moon. The beautiful, enchanting view made Siley and her friends ecstatic. They fell asleep feeling happy, excited, comfortable at the same time. So students, on the earth, the scene or the stars, it seems so foggy and the stars were seen rarely and only faintly. But on the moon, there was no atmosphere. So the stars could be seen clearly and they appeared exceptionally bright. Apart from that, the earth looked 13 times bigger in the moon sky that the moon did in the earth sky. Hence, sky watch on the moon was very special for the children, and the Siley and her friends, they were enthusiastic by seeing the beautiful, enchanting view. They fell asleep feeling happy, excited, and comfortable at the same time. The second day's attraction was the circus on the moon. One unique feature of the circus was the seating arrangement. The spectators were made to sit in the tent and the circus was going on outside. High jumps and long jumps were the special attractions. One gymnast jumped 27 meters high. On both the days, besides the main attractions, much time was reserved for visiting the various settlements there. It was expected that the students should spend some time for self-study. The teacher had assigned them the task of writing an essay on how they spent their time on the moon, which places they visited, when they observed, etc. Sally and her friends had travelled far and wide and had done a lot of sightseeing. Students, the second attraction for Sally and her friends was the circus on the moon. So, there was a proper sitting arrangement to watch the circus, and the spectators. Spectators means the one who sees. So the spectators were made to sit in the tent and the circus was going on outside. And what was there in the circus? High jumps, long jumps were the special attractions. And one gymnast jumped 27 meters high. So the first attraction was the sky watch and the second was circus. On the both days, besides the main attractions, much time was reserved for visiting the various settlements there. So as this was a trip, so the time was reserved for visiting the various settlements, and it was expected that the students should spend some time for self-study. So there was a homework given or the activity given for students, that was the essay writing on how they spent their time on the moon. You can see the report or the essay writing that how they spent the time on the moon and which places they visited on the moon, what they observed on the moon, etc. These all the things they can write in that essay writing. So Sally and her friends, they had travelled far and wide and had done a lot of sightseeing. They had visited a lot of sites. On the third day, their teacher took them to a place of historical importance. 100 years ago, Neil Armstrong had landed at this place. Everyone was looking forward to this visit to the historical monument. It was the oldest place in the history of a man on the moon. The first footprint of Neil Armstrong was preserved on the moonland. Beside the footprint was a grand statue of Armstrong. At the base of the statue were carved at the first words uttered by a human on the moon. One small step for a man, one giant leap of mankind. So dear students, you all know that the Neil Armstrong was the man or the person who stepped first on the moon. Students, on the third day, the 3 days trip was there, and on the third day the teacher took them to the historical place. And the 100 years ago, as you all know, the Neil Armstrong, he was the American astronaut who stepped first on the moon. And everyone was looking forward to this visit to the historical monument. And at this place, it was the oldest place in the history of man on the moon. And the first footprint of the Neil Armstrong was preserved on the moonland, because he was an American astronaut and he was the first person to step on the moon. And beside the footprint was a grand statue of Neil Armstrong. There was a grand statue of Neil Armstrong. And at the base of the statue, it were carved the first words uttered by the human who stepped on the moon was, one small step for a man, one giant leap of mankind. these words, one small step for a man, one giant leap of mankind, these words were uttered by Neil Armstrong, who was the first man to put his foot on the moon. Now just turn your page, page number 27. Now just come back to the page number 27. The next attraction for the children was that they were going to wear the space suits for the first time. Then they were going to roam outside experiencing the gravitational force of the moon. Be careful when you walk, dear children. Don't run or sprint, you will fall. The teacher was warning repeatedly, but who was in the mood to listen? They hopped, jumped, and ran around. So students, now the next attraction for the children was that they were going to wear the space suits, and for the first time, and they were going to roam outside experiencing the gravitational force of the moon. And the students were warning repeatedly. As you all know, when you are going to picnic, the teachers also give the instructions. Teacher gives the warning repeatedly. So in the same manner, the teachers were warning repeatedly. Be careful when you walk, dear children. Don't run or sprint, you will fall, because on the moon the gravitational force is more. So but none of the students were in the mood to listen. They hopped, they jumped, and they ran around. Made from the stones on the moon, very cheap, cheaper than those available in the shops in the settlement. Cheaper and better. At least have a look. The roadside shopkeepers screamed at the top of their voice. Buy, sister, buy. I am selling these earrings really cheap. Saying this, Bee approached Siley and displayed the sets of shining stones earrings. Siley suddenly remembered her mother. Tomorrow they were to start on their return journey. She had completely forgotten her mother in the last 3 days. She felt terribly guilty. So students, Siley purchased the earrings from outside the human settlement where the moon's gravitational force was at work. The gravitational force of the moon made the earrings light on the moon, but it became very heavy on the earth because the earth gravitational force. So, dear students, now the shopkeepers on the moon were screaming loudly that buy these ornaments, these are cheaper and better. So Siley purchased the earrings from outside the human settlement. And within these 3 days, she had forgotten her mother in the last 3 days, and she felt very guilty for that, because she suddenly remembered that tomorrow they were to start on their return journey. Buy this, sister, don't think much. Cheaper and better, take it. Siley looked around. The other children had proceeded ahead. Come on, give me those red earrings, quick. Siley pointed at them and asked, What's the price? Only 1,000 rupees, replied the salesman. Siley immediately paid the amount, took the earrings, and ran to catch up with her friends. So as I told you, Siley purchased the earrings which were red in color, and she paid for those to 1,000 rupees, and she ran to catch up with her friends. On returning home, Siley told her mother very enthusiastically, Mommy, look what I have brought for you. Her mother picked up the earrings. She exclaimed, Hello dear, how am I going to wear such heavy earrings? Siley immediately realized her mistake. Siley had purchased the earrings in the field of the moon's gravity. So as I told you all that Siley purchased the earrings from the outside the human settlement where the moon's gravitational force was at work. The gravitational force of the moon made the earrings very light on the moon, but it became very heavy on the earth. As Sally returned from the trip and she gifted her mommy those earrings, her mommy told to Sally that how could she wear such heavy earrings, because on the earth the earrings were too heavy because of the earth's gravitational force. And Sally immediately realized her mistake. Sally had purchased the earrings in the field of the moon's gravity, and here on the earth the earrings were too heavy, so none of them would wear those earrings. So dear students, I hope so you have understood this chapter very well. Now I am sending you all the question answers of this chapter through WhatsApp. Kindly note down in your English notebook in good handwriting. We'll see you in the next lecture. Thank you.